Hello, Commanders fans. Today we have some hot news that you can't miss, so get ready because there's a lot of important information coming. Before we start, we'd like to take the opportunity to subscribe to the channel, activate the bell, and stay up to date with all the news about our Washington Commanders. Don't forget to leave a like, which really strengthens our community and helps bring this content to the most passionate fans of the team. Now, without further ado, let's get straight to today's news. The Commanders' choice of Josh Conerly Jr. was more obvious than you might think. Even after trading for Laramie Tunsil and re-signing depth players like Trent Scott and Michael Dieter, there was always the possibility that Adam Peters would spend the Washington Commanders' first-round pick on another offensive lineman in the 2025 NFL Draft. When the Commanders selected Josh Conerly Jr. with the 29th pick, it shouldn't have come as a huge surprise, yet many analysts and fans seem to be caught off guard. The Commanders seem to have more pressing immediate needs at other positions. They lost their sack leader from 2024 and have a weakness on defense. The cupboard isn't exactly bare at cornerback, but Washington doesn't have a prototypical young, bigger perimeter option who can match up with the league's tallest wide receivers. There were bigger edges and corners available when Peters' turn came, but he declined. Josh Conerly Jr. was the perfect fit for the Commanders' long-term plan. On a very fundamental level, Peters doesn't believe in chasing prospects, especially early in the draft. No prospect is a can't miss. But given his age, attitude, production, and physical attributes, Conerly has a better chance of long-term success than any of the players available at positions of need late in the first round. You can't teach size. Michigan cornerback Will Johnson looks, on paper, like an ideal piece to add to the secondary, alongside Marshawn Lattimore and fellow college prospect Mike Sainristil. But his injury situation and lack of elite speed also raise questions. There are concerns about Conerly too, but they're entirely related to skill and experience. This is nearly identical to what Peters encountered last year with Brandon Coleman. Like the TCU player, Conerly is a college tackle who has the attributes to play outside, but can also easily be moved to the interior. Conerly was more productive in college. That's why he went in the first round, as opposed to Coleman, who went in the third, but they both fit the same profile. Both are big, with great feet. Both are young, and should become stronger and more efficient with professional training. If you're a fan of drafting at positions of need, the Commanders need more linemen. Even with 5 decent starters on the roster, 6 if you include Cosme, Conerly's presence helps protect and elevate most of Washington's future, both short-term and long-term. Peters won't ignore his defense, but there were no near-perfect defenders available at number 29. And there were no killer prospects at wide receiver or running back. The Commanders didn't trade out of necessity, which was wise. Conerly was the most surefire player on the board when Peters had to make his decision. The fact that he also filled a less immediate need makes his choice, in retrospect, a no-brainer. NFL Draft Analyst Project's Dream Day 2 scenario for tight net worth Commanders one factor that may have influenced Adam Peters' decision to select Josh Conerly Jr. in the first round of the 2025 NFL Draft was the relative strength of the position. While the Washington Commanders need help at pass rushing, the general manager decided that none of the available edge players were worthy of a first-round pick. Aside from Abdul Carter, I only had Michael Williams and James Pierce Jr. as first-round picks. The offensive line had more edge prospects this year, like Conerly. That doesn't mean there aren't plenty of high-end pass rushers available on day 2. It's unclear which ones will still be on the roster when the Commanders pick at number 61 overall. ESPN's Matt Miller believes one of them, Texas A&M's Nick Scarton, will go to Washington in his updated mock draft. That would be a great addition for Peters at this point. Nick Scarton makes more sense for the Commanders in the late second round. Some scouts had indicated that Scarton could go much higher, even in the late first round. That would be a stretch, but in the late second round, It makes sense for a team that needs what he can offer. Scourton would be a physical presence on the edge. He's in the same mold as the defensive ends Dan Quinn used for much of last season. Dorrance Armstrong Jr. and Clelin Ferrell. He's not quite the size of those defensive ends, and that could limit him a bit. But he has a stockier frame that can handle power on the outside. Though he primarily plays as a pass rusher, Scourton is not a one-dimensional player. Some of the other lighter, quicker options still available would be: the prospect has lost nearly 30 pounds in pre-draft evaluations. Scourton weighed more than 270 pounds for most of his last season with the Aggies, but he's slimmed down. Even at his heavier weight, he has shown great explosiveness on his throws. Playing more in the 260-pound range could make him an even more explosive asset coming off wide sets. Scourton had 15 sacks in his last 2 seasons, first at Purdue and then at Texas A&M, and made plenty of plays behind the line of scrimmage. He may not be able to chase down ball carriers from behind, but he has very good speed in short areas. As a pass rusher, Scourton has a solid combination of speed and power. To translate those skills, Scourton will need a great coach who can hone his arsenal of quick plays while also teaching him discipline. Peters may be getting a player with a solid resume and the potential to become a high-level player. Commanders exploring trade for Dolphins defensive star for $118 million. The Washington Commanders have been quite active this offseason and currently have 5 total picks in the 2025 NFL Draft, with the first of those coming at number 29 overall. Washington has landed some big players via trade this offseason, acquiring Deebo Samuel from the San Francisco 49ers to give Jaden Daniels another weapon, and veteran offensive lineman Laremy Tunsil to help protect Daniels while he's in the pocket. While the Commanders could undoubtedly improve in this weekend's draft, they also appear to be interested in veteran Miami cornerback Jalen Ramsey. According to reports from Outkick, the move would make sense considering Washington is looking to improve its secondary. They acquired Marshawn Lattimore last season and are hoping to have him take over in 2025, along with the likes of Mike Sanristil, Noah Igbinoghene, and recently signed Jonathan Jones. While the move may make sense from a need standpoint, it likely wouldn't yield the end results the franchise is looking for. First, the Commanders likely want to rejuvenate the position, and Ramsey, who will turn 31 in 2025, doesn't fit that mold. Additionally, Ramsey had the worst season of his career with the Dolphins last season, where he struggled especially when making tackles. In addition to his decline in performance, Ramsey also carries a hefty price tag, as his contract runs through the 2028 season and, if traded before June 1st, he would have $25.2 million in dead money on the salary cap. With all of this working against him, I don't see the Commanders making a big move to acquire a player who likely doesn't fit into their plans to compete now while also building for the future with their new culture. Expect the Commanders to look at and address their cornerback depth in the draft, either early on day 1 or over the course of the remaining 4 picks.